Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. We've got a lot of stuff to cover today. We've got news starting to filter out as players are getting ready for training camp. We've got a few GMs, execs speaking to the media, all kinds of stuff going on. But Celtics already had their media day. We've got plenty of stuff to dive into. So make sure you do subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office Show on YouTube. Don't forget to follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts as well. Keith, we're getting the show in a little bit early because you're hunkering down for a storm there. So should anything happen mid-show, if Keith just disappears, we know he just lost power, and I'll try to forage on ahead.
Yeah, we've got a hurricane coming in off the coast of Florida right now. We're okay. I was saying before we started recording, if you looked outside right now, you'd be like, this is like gorgeous. Like it's sunny, it's nice, it's not too hot. But we're just in the middle of waiting on the next band to roll through. So it's just, yeah. So if I up and disappear mid-show, that's probably what happened. And probably power or internet got knocked out or something like that. But we're hopeful it'll be, it's just going to brush onside us with, some pretty nasty weather for a little bit, but nothing too bad.
Yeah, if Keith disappears, it's either the storm or Thanos, one or the other. But hopefully we've timed this appropriately. All right, Keith, let's start this off with something we talked about on our last show. Derrick Rose. We weren't sure what things were going to look like, why he got out of his contract with the Grizzlies, especially giving back the money that he did. But now this morning he officially retired. I thought we talked about this on the last show. I thought this was the correct decision, that his body's not willing to play NBA basketball anymore when you look at his games played over the last 3 seasons. But former MVP, incredible career, and I'm happy for him that he came to this decision, because sometimes we see guys hold on too long. So that's not going to be the case here with Derrick Rose, and he calls it a career.
Yeah, he could have done this a few different ways, right? He could have gone to camp and tried to play and forced the Grizzlies to make a decision. He could have asked to be waived but not offered to give up his whole salary. That's extremely unusual. A lot of times guys will retire and say, but hey, I still want my money. Right. Maybe that was the Grizzlies being like, well, then we're not going to waive you, and camp starts next week. See you there. My guess is this was just a mutual decision of, I don't really want to play anymore. The Grizzlies like, got it, let's go. And it went the way it went, where he gave up all of his money in the buyout and did ultimately clear waivers, of course. And now we're in a spot where he's moving on to retirement. He did a big post on Instagram, also took out a full page ad in each of the cities he played for. There were a couple in there that I didn't quite remember. Like I didn't remember him with the Cavs necessarily, but he was with it was the Bulls, the Cavs, the Knicks, the Pistons, the Timberwolves, and the Grizzlies. And the Knicks were twice, 2 different times. So yeah, took out the ad. Basically, it was like hey, thanks for everything that you gave me to the sport of basketball. And then in some statements to a handful of different reporters said, I want to give everything I have to my family now. And that's a decision anybody should respect when a guy feels like he's done. And now the Grizzlies have a little bit of closure on it. They can move forward. They've got plenty of room under the luxury tax if they want to do anything to add a player, convert a guy. There's a lot of talk of maybe Scottie Pippen Jr. Could be converted. Markelle Fultz is still out there as a free agent. We'll see. But yeah, heck of a career for Derrick Rose. Heck of like 2 careers, right? He started out with the superstar MVP career. Yeah. Got hurt again, and then came back and kind of reinvented himself as a high-level 6-man for a few years, which was pretty cool to see. I put on Twitter, something more guys need to be open to, right? You're not, I get it. Maybe your attitude and mindset is, but I've always been the guy. Like I think about Carmelo Anthony. And now for those first couple of years, he's like, not doing it. I'm Carmelo Anthony. I'm not going to be, this. And then Portland was like, hey, we'll give you a shot, but this is what we need you to be. And then he translated that over to the Lakers and played a few more really good, solid years as a 6-man. Like there's more guys need to be open to this if they want to extend their careers. Derrick Rose did it quite well.
Yeah, and look, it's okay if a guy says, I don't want to do that. I don't want to extend my career. I want to go out as a star, and that's that. Sure. Well, you see guys do that too, but it is cool to me when you see guys who hit that point in their career. and they say, you know what, I'm going to shift my role. I'm going to accept being the sixth man. I'm going to accept being whatever, just because I love the game so much, because I want to be able to share what I know with some of the younger guys, the next generation coming in. I always, of course, think of Vince Carter, but this is, it's always a cool thing when you see guys that are able to make that transition, because it's not an easy one to make for somebody who has been the guy on every team they've played for since they were kids to suddenly make that shift. It's a big thing. And so, a lot of credit to Derrick Rose for the career that he had, and happy for him that he's recognized, hey, this is it. This is my time to walk away. And now he'll move on to the next phase of his life.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's jump over to the Clippers. Uh-oh. We're starting this already. Kawhi Leonard limited to open the season. There was like a lot of conflicting reports around the Olympics, around Team USA, Kawhi stepping away. Who was requiring him to step away? What's the real situation with his knee? Is it really bad? Is it not? All of that. Now here we are, and he's not ready to go here for training camp for the Clippers. This isn't a great sign, Keith. You lose Paul George over the summer, and now you're already dealing with Kawhi Leonard knee issues. Is there a real expectation that this is going to be all fine come the start of the season, or should we kind of be bracing ourselves for Kawhi to be not 100% once the season starts going?
Yeah, not to be a jerk about it, but I don't care if the Clippers told me, oh, it's going to be great, and he's 100%. Yeah, okay, sure. Like, it's just, why would we believe this at this point? We've got nothing but history that says, like, Kawhi is going to miss time. He's going to deal with stuff. It came out that he had a surgical procedure done in May that was designed to try to help him get back and going. And then Lawrence Frank, in an update to the media just in the last couple of days, said the swelling is almost gone. Like, almost gone? Like, like he had a surgery in May? Like, and you're right. He had that weird kind of mini stint with Team USA that ended without him playing in the Olympics and all the stuff that came with that. I was already, so I'm sure you're doing the same thing. I'm playing around with where do I have teams in the standings and all my stuff to get it ready. And that'll be, continue to kind of tweak that and tinker with it until we get there. I don't have the Clippers even in the play-in tournament. And this is not going to change that for me. Like, I just can't get there. The West is too good, too deep. And we've said it before. We both liked the moves they made to do what they can to try to replace Paul George's production as best they could with a bunch of different guys. But none of it works if you don't have Kawhi Leonard. You're just another kind of okay sort of team. And I don't have them in that spot now, because it's too tough. There's 12 teams legitimately, maybe even 13 if you buy into the Spurs, that can be playoff team or play-in teams and playoff teams in the West. And I don't see how anybody can feel confident putting the Clippers like safely in the top 6 to 10 of that group.
I can, just given the depth of the West, something like this, and we talked about this going in, something like this is all it takes to drop a team out. And you look at last season, you've got the Clippers sitting there as the 4 seed, but the West is pretty tight. I mean, there's not a huge gap here, but what you're talking about 5 games between the 4 seed and the 10 seed. Like, if Kawhi is not available, they could definitely find themselves dropping out, especially as teams are getting better in the West. I mean, look, just by the Grizzlies being reasonably healthy. I'm not saying everybody's going to be 100% healthy all season, because that's not going to happen, but just by the Grizzlies being reasonably healthy, somebody's getting bumped out, because the Grizzlies are a clear playoff team. Houston has gotten better. Who knows what San Antonio is going to be with Wemby this season? I still wouldn't have them as a playoff team, but they've improved. Houston could make a claim for being a playoff team this season. So maybe the Clippers are going to be the team to fall out if Kawhi is already starting things off injured, or at the very least not at 100%, even if he is able to go, even if the swelling finally goes down enough for him to play at the start of the season, it may still be enough of a hindrance to where the Clippers find themselves in trouble in the standings in the West. So not good news, not what we want to see for an incredibly talented player. Keith, these injuries with Kawhi, he just can't seem to escape him. escape them. I mean, he had that incredible run in the finals with the Raptors, and it seems like ever since then, despite his brilliance when he's on the floor, he just can't stay out there long enough.
So I'm gonna set the bar at 70 games. How many seasons do you think Kawhi has played more than 70 games in his career?
None. Is it
2.
none?
It's
2.
2.
Okay, I'm like, it's not many.
Yeah, 15-16 he played in 72, and 16-17 he played in 74. Then 9 the next year. Now, to be totally fair, in 2020, he played in 57 games his first year with the Clippers. It looked like he was on his way to playing in probably 70 plus, and then we had the pandemic, which wiped
Right.
out a bunch of games off the schedule. But yeah, 2. That's it. 2 years. And his time with the Clippers, he has played in 57 games, 52 games, 0 games, 52 games. And then last year was the high watermark at 68 games in 34.3 minutes per game. Played really well. I mean, he was terrific. All NBA second team, was really, really good throughout the course of the season. Just then wasn't there in the playoffs. It didn't hold up. And that's the whole thing. They've tried to play him. He didn't hold up. They've tried the load management. He's not there at the end. It's just, I think we're just on when he goes down, he's going to go down, and that's going to be it. And you can't predict it. There's no formula here that can save you from it. You know, clearly you can't play him every night, 40 plus minutes. That would be silly, but I don't know what you do. And they don't have Paul George. That James Harden is good, but he's not James Harden MVP anymore. I don't see how this Clippers team is going to be anything more than like the equivalent of like last year's Rockets, where it's like, you're good, but you're not a postseason team.
You know, it wasn't long ago the NBA was passing around information about how load management does not work, right? And the NBA, of course, is going to be biased in that opinion because, well, they don't want star players to load manage. They want them out on the floor night in, night out, drawing eyeballs to TV screens and putting butts in seats. But I would have to imagine that whatever information, whatever packet the NBA sent around with their data of why load management does not work, I'd have to imagine the cover of it is just a picture of Kawhi Leonard. Like he's on the cover of that thing because it hasn't mattered whether he's used load management, whether he's not, whether he's tried to play. He just keeps, unfortunately, getting hurt. Like we said, incredibly talented player. And I hope he gets back and gets healthy. And I'll tell you what, Keith, this is not the way you want to open up a new arena with no Paul George and now a less than 100% Kawhi Leonard. We'll see how things look for the Clippers this season.
I wonder if the Clippers become a very quick pivot team where they may look at it early this year and say, you know what, we're just not very good. Even though it's the new arena, we're not going to openly tank day one, but like first of the year, we're going to start going for, because now imagine you do add one of those really good players coming in. Imagine you can get yourself into the lottery. Now you have your new face of the franchise coming in, and they are set up with a lot of money coming off the books in pretty quick fashion. They could really flip this thing very, very quickly because it's really Kawhi and Zubac. That's the only big contracts that they have past the next couple of seasons. So you could really turn this thing very, very quickly with the Clippers and say, all right, we've got, I don't know, Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, and Zubac are kind of those of our guys. And then, we still got Kawhi and a whole bunch of cap space. Let's go. And that could be how this plays out.
So when I'm looking at this and I see James Harden has essentially a 1-year deal, then a player option, if you're talking about the Clippers pivoting, could they trade Kawhi? Like, do you see them going down that path?
I mean, sure. Who's trading for him, though?
That's a good question.
That's like where you would have to be a team like that would have to be something that they wouldn't do it, but like Boston could have made that move. Let's say they didn't make the Drew Holiday move, where it could have been something like, all right, let's do this because if he does miss time, we're still okay. Like you're going to have to be that good of a team, that deep. Like imagine if Oklahoma City was like, we can do it because if he misses time, we're still fine. Like, because the Clippers could not expect, like, well, we need Jalen Williams and multiple first round, because they're not going to get that. But if it turned into, all right, we'll find the matching salary and then we'll plug them in, like, yeah, they could do it. Or they, if they want to say super expensive, like you could see Phoenix or even Minnesota maybe do that, because they've got the contracts that they could send out to make that happen. But yeah, that's the challenge, right? Who can do that and still have the team to afford him playing 45 or 50 games and just saying, well, that's good enough. That's our home run cut. Yeah, that's what it would have to be for me.
Yeah, that's probably an unlikely scenario, but not the way
did
the
just
Clippers
get
want.
irrationally excited at the idea of him on the Thunder, like in the next couple years. Like, holy crap, that would be like, let's go.
It's the whole, if he can stay healthy, that would be insane.
Yeah.
If he could stay healthy.
Well, and I'd be like, how many games do you need to be ready for the playoffs? 10, 20, 30? Okay, great. You want to play 4 or 5 times a month? Great, fine. Like, that's enough. Like, we're gonna manage you all the way through, and then again, it's fingers crossed and hope we get to April and you're healthy and ready to go. But yeah, just, oh boy, that would be something else, right? Because even when he plays too, it'd be like, hey, we don't need you to be 25 points per game. We like score 10, 15, play defense, hit open shots, let other guys set you up. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Speaking of trades, let's jump over to my Lakers. Rob Pelinka, JJ Redick met with the media yesterday, and they said they are open to trading future picks because, of course, the question was asked, what do you want to do on the trade market? What are you looking to do? Are you willing to move on from those future first-round picks that you have available? And effectively, Rob Pelinka said, yes, we would trade our future first-round picks. If we're going to trade both of our future firsts, we want something that will lead to sustained excellence. In other words, setting a high bar if you want both picks, but we would consider a marginal trade if we want to do something for one pick. So it really felt like Rob was not just answering the question to the media or to fans who were watching as it was happening, but also to the rest of the league. Like, hey, this is what we need for these picks, and clearly suggesting that what's out there right now hasn't met that bar at this point. So that's where they're at. I know there's a lot of frustration that they didn't do anything over the summer, and rightfully so. They sat out the offseason, and that's not ideal, obviously, given where the team is at currently. But it does seem like they've got an idea of what it will take them to move on from those picks. And if they get that, then great. But otherwise, they've shown that they're willing to not make those moves if the right deal is not there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we've been saying this all along. Even go back to last season, in season, like as we were approaching the trade deadline. You can only do it once, right? Like that's it. You can make one big trade. It's the same thought process as when the Trailblazers were talking about trading Damian Lillard. You get one shot at it. And if you don't get back the best return you can, well, you bungled it, and that's it. Now that opportunity is gone, and you may set yourself back. And I think what Rob Pelinka, he's taking a lot of grief for the quotable line of, if we're going to do this, we have to sustain Lakers excellence or some version of that. And I get it. 99% of that is just people making jokes of what excellence. Like, well, first you have to be excellent to sustain it. But I think what he's trying to say is like, look, I don't want to be 5 years from now. We don't have draft picks. We're not any good. And like, there it is. So to me, that is, we'll trade the picks, but it's got to be somebody who can help us now and somebody who can be with us post LeBron as AD is starting to age out. Like, they need to be the next guy, right? If we're going to do that, or at least if not the next franchise Laker, like the next, at a minimum, our second or third best player. And that just hasn't come their way. I'm with you. I mean, we've said it a million times. We don't need to rehash it too much, but like when LeBron came to you and said, I'm going to give up a ton of money if you go make moves, and then you said, we're good. Like, and I know that's not how it played out fully,
right?
But like, yeah, that's not good enough, right? Like, and we've said that over and over again. It's not that you weren't in the finals, on the verge of the finals, where you're like, we don't need to change much. Like, let's run it back. And, and then this one I'm tired of hearing from him is we need 30 games. We need to see this team together. Okay, dude. Like we know
we've seen this team
like.
together.
Yeah, it's fine. They're fine, right? But you don't want to be fine, right? You want to be good or very good or contender, right? Like fine is not enough for that. So yeah, I don't know that we're gonna get 30 games. Those 30 games might come in February. That you might have to start that clock with the way some of these injuries and whatnot are going on.
Oh
so,
God,
I don't know, but right,
the timer doesn't start until the team's healthy.
Yeah,
I mean,
you better start it when they open training camp next week,
right?
And if you want to give it 30 games from day one of the regular season, let's mix in the 4 or 5 preseason games into the counter too. Like I think that'll give you a sense. I sent you a link. I want you to pull if you can. Bring this up because I think this is kind of cool. It's we've long said Real GM's like the best public source for draft pick tracking in the future. This link I think is really neat because what they added was this is one of the things where we don't have to do math anymore in the show. How many tradable picks does the team have? They're right
Very
there.
Cool.
So you can see like the Lakers right there in the middle of the screen. If you're watching before the next draft, they have 2 outrights. They have 3 swaps, 0 protected. After the next draft, 2 outright, 4 swaps, 0 protected. You look down like Miami after the next draft, they get a couple that they can trade out. So I thought that was kind of neat that they added this feature to all their great draft pick stuff that they have. Because normally, it's like, right, especially on the Friday live show, someone will say, how many tradable picks does the team have? Then I'm pulling up the other Real GM thing, and I'm like, well, there's 1 and 2 and 3, and oh wait, this one's traded, so they can't trade the next one. Okay, so they cut that one out, and then I'm like, the next thing I know, I'm like, gosh, I can't think of his actual name now. The guy Alan from the Hangover movie.
Yeah, from the Hangover, where you're doing the math and everything.
Blackjack. Yes.
Yeah.
And he's counting cards. Like that's what I look like.
I need to go back and rewatch that. That's a good movie.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit.
That movie, when it first came out, was like, because it just was like unexpected thing after unexpected thing. And spoiler, the movie's gonna be 20 years old now, pretty close, right?
Something like
that. It's when the tiger all of a sudden is in the bathroom. Like I was like, oh man, this movie is like way out of bounds with all the nonsense that's happened. And then Ed Helms' character doesn't have a tooth. Like, yeah, love it.
It was so much of the like just the classic comedy stuff, and and at that time there was kind of a drought in that, so it really went against the grain and kind of came from out of nowhere, and you're like, whoa, this is so fun. And I think about it now, and I look at it, I'm like, there's something like that they can't do that anymore. Like there's so much stuff that they can't get away with without offending everybody, without everybody getting up in arms and I'm all this stuff, I'm all upset about it. You can't have kind of classic comedies like that, not in that sense, the way that they pulled off the stuff that they did. So a little bit of a time capsule of a different era, I guess, when we look at movies like that. But man, it's a classic for sure.
Yeah. Just before you pull it off the screen, they're hidden at the bottom, but I know who the name is. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're hidden by our banner. 0 tradable draft picks. Before next draft or after next draft. That's just kind of funny, but just mostly wanted to share this here to say another cool tool that Real GM has put together. I think it's really going to be helpful to have, especially when we get into full on into trade season. That will probably be a page we refer to quite often.
For sure. Okay, let's go here. This was the big shocking moment, I thought, of the press conference with Rob Pelinka and JJ Redick. Jared Vanderbilt had double foot surgery at the beginning of the summer. This is what drives me nuts about the summertime. It's when NBA teams, everybody's waiting to find out what's the status of these players, what's going on, what's happening. And, oh yeah, no big deal. He had foot surgery at the beginning of the summer. And we're just telling you about it now. Just no big, no biggie. No, but we're not in season, so we're not going to clue anybody in. And meanwhile, all the talking points have been what's happening with Jared Vanderbilt. Where is he really at? JJ Redick dropped a little bit. I think it was in July. Mentioned he might still be having to do some rehab. Clearly, people knew what was going on. Just for whatever reason, they made the decision, no, we're not going to tell anybody what's really happening with Jared Vanderbilt. So he has double foot surgery, and now we don't know exactly where he's going to be at come the start of the season. Pelinka said there's still optimism that he'll be ready for the start of the season, but doesn't sound like he's going to be ready for the start of training camp. And we're weeks away. Like, it's not like there's a huge gap between the start of training camp and the start of the NBA season. So we'll see where things go from here. But that was a big shock. Like, wait, what? He did what? When? And why are we just finding out about that? That was a absolutely shocking moment, I thought, from that presser.
Yeah, I was stunned when I saw that. I was actually sitting in the car and I was kind of following along on Twitter, and then I was like, wait, what? Like double, like surgery on each foot? Like what happened here? Like what are we doing? And then, as I looked at it a little bit more, and then I started trying to go back to be like, is this something we knew? Like, and then I was like, I don't think we knew that he had surgery on each foot and all that stuff. And then I was like, very quickly, I was like, yeah, we didn't know this. So that's yeah, I mean, that's crazy. And here's my thing. All due respect to Jared Vanderbilt, I don't think Chris Finch and staff have been sitting around planning for how are we going to stop Jared Vanderbilt on opening night, and you have to withhold any kind of information. Just like what? Why? Like what? Like I get it if it was so current Laker Christian Coloco when he was dealing with like an actual life-threatening thing. Like okay, like that's his personal thing, and I get it. Every injury is, but sports are different. We've all agreed sports are different. That medical history is openly shared. Like it just is what it is. And this isn't a career ending thing either. Because if it was like, well, this could be like his career's in the balance. All right, then maybe I could see a little more caution. But this was just like, he had surgery, and we could have known about this and been talking about it all along. Like, yeah, Jared Vanderbilt probably gonna be slow to ramp up and whatever. And I know someone will be like, so you found out now. What's the difference? Well, it just makes a difference in the way you talk about the team. And it also, to me, says this happened a while ago. Again, it's further, you didn't do anything to plan for this. Like you didn't cover this in any way. You lost a forward in free agency, and you brought in a guy who's much more of a 2-3 and another guy who's a combo guard. And that's it. You didn't you didn't bring in anybody else to help cover for a guy who's really for them been a 4-5. Like that's where, that part's really disappointing to me, but let's hope he's healthy and ready to go sooner rather than later. And, can be a big part of it. Cause I've loved him back to his Nuggets days when he wasn't getting a lot of run. And it was like, there's something here. This guy just does stuff when he's out there. Yeah. So, and the Lakers clearly can use any front court bodies they can get right now.
Absolutely. I mean, we did a rotation build a couple of weeks ago for the Lakers, and it's very difficult putting lineups out on the floor if Vanderbilt's not available, just because the lack of fours that you've got on the roster, guys who can play power forward. So Vando, I mean, he's going to be important for the team. We'll see if he's back for the start of the regular season, but this was a big surprise that he's actually, had a couple of procedures. One of them, it was mentioned like, hey, we just did this one because while he's getting the other one done, we might as well just get this taken care of. It doesn't sound like it was quite as pressing, but still, I mean, it also begs the question, why was this not done back in February? Was there a thought that he could just rehab and that would be enough? And then why was he declared eligible to play in the playoffs for that final game? Like just some weirdness going on here for sure. It's just sloppy and strange for this to come out the way that it did. So
let me ask you a question,
he's healthy, but
real quick, because you said you guys were talking about the Lakers rotation. So I looked this up, and admittedly, lineup data can always be a little wonky, but it's generally really good directionally, at least. The last 2 years, Anthony Davis, 2 years ago, 100% of his minutes are logged as center. Last season, it's 97%. Not saying that it would be in lineups where then LeBron slides to the 3, but do you think one of the ways they'll get through it is Davis plays maybe when you stagger him and LeBron a little bit, he plays at the 4 alongside another another big more, because they haven't done that the last 2 years, barely at all.
Well, the problem is there isn't another big that would make AD the 4, right? I mean, like, and I guess, yeah, I mean, we can call Jackson, but Jackson Hayes is 220 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
So if he's on the floor with AD, Anthony Davis is going to be the guy that AD and LeBron, I think, are the two heaviest Lakers. So he's going to be the guy that's going to take on the bigger, more physical challenge. And that's, I think, more the point, like who's going to be out there that can absorb that contact for Anthony Davis. And so I guess if you wanted to, you could throw Rui Hachimura out there and say, hey, or you go deal with Jokic and we'll put AD on. And then technically Hachimura is the 5 and all of that. But there isn't really a bigger body where you could put a guy on the floor and go, oh, obviously that guy's the center. AD is going to get pushed to the floor because that's a bigger human being than Anthony Davis. That player's not on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, it maybe your best shot at that is Koloko pans out. And
maybe
he's, really fully back and ready to go and gets up to speed very quickly. Like, because it looked like he was maybe going to develop into that kind of guy. I thought he looked like with Toronto, he might develop into somebody who could start for one of those openers, right? Plays the first 5-8 minutes of each half, and then that's it. Because more of a bigger, bulky guy with that who can rebound and block some shots. So I don't know, because I'm doing the same thing I'm doing as I'm playing with rotations and looking around and see like, all right, what can you do here? But it's definitely something I'm going to work through. We got one more undersized center, maybe we'll see coming up. You want to go to the next story? Zion out for Williamson. Vengeance.
What is that? What is Zion is out for vengeance? Are we kicking off a new MCU movie here? What's going on?
I'm for it. That sounds like that Zion Williamson straight vengeance. Or I guess it'd be like an 80s title would be Zion straight vengeance.
Yeah.
Next week. Like man, I'm all for it. Like Zion was really good last year and he was healthy right up until he had the weird hamstring thing. And that was just a freak thing that happened. Everybody, kind of went to here we go again. But that was like a out of nowhere thing. I don't know, man. Zion, I'm not sold at all on this whole Zion's going to play a ton at the 5 thing. Like I don't see how you build a passable defense that.
It's not ideal, but like, what else are they going to do?
Yeah, he's going to have to play some. I still think they're going to start like Daniel Tice and again an opener, right? First 5-6 minutes each half. You go to Zion, you mix in Missy and Carlo Makovic, and figure it out that way. But Zion's ready to lay waste to the league. Let's go. He looks good. Everybody who's seen him looks good. He talked about how like him and the Pelicans are in a great place now with that. So I'm all for it. I love Zion. He's one of my favorite players to watch when he's healthy because he's just such a. It's like watching Charles Barkley or Larry Johnson.
Yeah. He's unique.
At their peak again. Yeah, exactly. He's fun. He's only like 6'6", but he's like a bowling ball with legs that can jump to the roof. Like I don't know. I love him. So I hope he does come out and really tear it up right away.
Absolutely. I mean, Zion there's nobody like him in the NBA with the way that he plays, the style, the efficiency he has at the rim, just the raw strength that man has. And so you just hope he can stay healthy and that he is indeed out for a vengeance because he's a difference-making player for sure. He can be a star in this league. We just haven't seen him put it all together. Maybe this is the season. Maybe for as much as we're talking about how imbalanced the Pelicans roster is and how they don't have a 5 and all of this stuff, if Zion is his ultimate self, that stuff doesn't matter quite as much.
Yeah, I'm there, man. I love the idea of where we get it. Coming this spring, Zion straight vengeance. Yeah, and then next year, if it doesn't go so well, you can have coming to theaters in the spring of 2025, or I guess it'd be 2026. So coming to theaters in the spring of 2026, Zion straight revengeance.
The Revengers,
right? Yeah, I love it. Yeah, we're the Revengers. So all right, getting a little punchy there, a little silly. But
storm's coming. Man, that's all right.
Yeah, let's go. Let's have a big year, Zion.
Let's
right. Tear it up. Excited for that.
All right. Last thing here, Quinten Post signing a 2-way contract. Keith, I didn't even look to see where is this 2-way contract taking place.
Yeah, So I slid this in for two reasons. One, Quinten Post is a BC guy, so of course I'm going to give him a little bit of love. We don't have a ton of players in the NBA right now. It's him and Reggie Jackson, I think, are the only two left. Jared Dudley's obviously the BC guy, but he's no longer playing. But I mostly put this in is so Quinten Post, when he was drafted by the Warriors after a string of weird trades and transactions. The Warriors drafted him, traded him, then reacquired his rights through a period of 5 trades, and a couple of those might have got mashed into one big trade, but whatever. He's with the Warriors. The Warriors, by all accounts, wanted him on a second-round pick exception. This is the main reason I put this out there. The Warriors, as currently structured, do not have enough room under the first apron hard cap to fill their 15th roster spot. So their 15th roster spot has to stay open. They are only sitting at, I should have had it pulled up and been prepared if I wasn't playing around with fake movie trailer voice. They're a little over 530, about 534K under the first apron. So in their hard capped at that first apron because of using the, there's multiple reasons. One was full mid-level on DeAnthony Melton. They also did the sign and trades for Kyle Anderson and Buddy Hield. Because once you're hard capped at it anyway, you might as well use all your tools and just be hard capped. So they can't bring Quinten Post in on anything more than a two-way contract right now. One of the main reasons I'm bringing this up is keep an eye on that one, because that's a good bet to be converted. Because even let's say they make no other moves the rest of the year and they run with the guys they have, once they get to about a little over mid-season, they'll be able to convert that contract for Quinten Post and put him on a prorated standard deal and then have him for multiple years from there. They won't be able to use the second-round pick exception because they've already been signed to a contract, but they can convert him into a semi-equivalent deal with that. So just wanted to throw that out there that the Warriors they're working under a little bit of a constraint right now where they can't fill out their final run for a while unless they make some other kind of move.
All right. Well, good to note. And your BC guy.
Yeah.
Is there in Golden State.
If I'm being honest, that was 75% of the reason I wanted to bring it up. He's fun. He's a big who's got good range, good touch, can pass a little. I was high on him in the draft process. Bryce also liked him as a player too. So we'll see where it goes for him in the NBA. He's got to move his feet enough and defend enough. Otherwise, it's not going to matter. But he's interesting for a team that could use some size. They've got for sure kind of one real center and Kevon Looney, and that's kind of it. So we'll see where it goes. All
right. Well, we did it. We got the show in before the hurricane took out your power, internet, or whatever. Hopefully, we're back tomorrow for Front Office Friday, but we'll see. I guess it's going to depend on the state of things there in Florida.
Yeah, we'll keep you up to date. If you see a tweet late morning about Front Office Fridays on, then you'll know we're here. Otherwise, we'll get to you when we get to you.
That's right. We'll be taking your questions and comments live tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Till next time, see ya, and stay safe.